Arrogance. Arrogance is the attitude of being superior to everyone and having a delusional sense of self-importance. People who are arrogant have an inflated sense of their own accomplishments and don't want to acknowledge their own shortcomings and mistakes. They dismiss and disrespect any opinions coming from the people around them. Avarice. Avarice is an extreme form of greed and the desire for material wealth. It means having the desire to hoard money, possessions, and resources from other people, even at their expense and suffering. Bigotry. Bigotry is the strong and unreasonable prejudices and biases that some people have against other groups of people based on their race, religion, nationality, or gender. Bigotry can take place in many forms, including verbal abuse, violence, or even systematically by the government. Callousness. People who are callous lack any empathy and compassion for the people around them. They don't care about anyone's emotions, needs, or life struggles that they are going through. Contempt. Contempt is the strong feeling of hatred or disrespect towards someone who is considered inferior or untrustworthy. Contempt causes people to have a strong sense of superiority and lack regard for another person's value. Cruelty. Cruelty is the deliberate and malicious intent to cause harm and suffering to other people or animals. It involves inflicting physical or mental pain without empathy, usually for personal gratification or control. Cynicism. Cynicism is the distrust towards another person's motives, beliefs, or sincerity. A cynic doesn't just believe that everyone is motivated by self-interest, but they also use their pessimistic view of society as a justification to do bad things, because they consider positive actions to be naive, misguided, and a waste of time. Deceit. Deceit is the act of intentionally misleading and deceiving other people through dishonesty or trickery. It involves presenting false information, hiding the truth, or manipulating facts to mislead others. Despair. Despair is the feeling of deep sadness, distress, hopelessness, and a general feeling of defeat. Individuals who are in despair feel like there is no way out of their problems, and these feelings can arise from major personal setbacks, trauma, or even just from regular stress. Dishonesty. Dishonesty is the act of being untruthful and misleading people. It is very similar to deceit. However, deceit is the act of intentionally misleading people, whereas dishonesty is a broader term that involves people who are not aware of their delusions. Disloyalty. Disloyalty is when someone loses faith in another person and betrays their trust. It involves breaking the promises you've made to them, or doing the opposite of what they want. Distrust. Distrust is the lack of confidence and belief someone has in another person, and it usually leads to betrayal. Distrust usually arises based on legitimate concerns one person has with another, but it can also be formed from false perceptions. Egotism. Egotism is the excessive focus someone has on themselves, and it's fueled by an inflated sense of self-importance, superiority, or entitlement to something. People who are egoists put themselves first, even if that's not the smartest option in a given situation, and their egos can often lead to their personal downfalls. Envy. Envy is when someone feels resentful to the possessions or status that someone else has. It makes people jealous, meaning that envious people think that they are owed something more than the people who have that thing. Fanaticism. Fanaticism is when someone falls in love or starts worshiping a particular person, belief, ideology, cause, or activity. It causes people to develop an intense and uncritical devotion to something, to the point where it starts damaging social behaviors and mental health. Fanatics have no self-awareness because they disregard logical thinking. Gluttony. Gluttony is the excessive and constant consumption of foods and drinks, beyond what is necessary for nourishment or pleasure. People who are gluttons lack self-control, and they usually overeat in response to stress or boredom. Gossip. Gossiping is the act of spreading rumors and unverified information about other people's personal lives, behaviors, or affairs. Gossiping is typically done in a casual or sensationalized manner, where the gossiper takes things that are true or partially true and then uses it to justify speculations that destroy another person's reputation. Greed. Greed is the intense desire for wealth, possessions, resources, or power that is way beyond necessary for one's needs or well-being. Greed causes disregard for other human life because it promotes a dog-eat-dog mentality. Hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is when someone promotes certain beliefs or moral principles but doesn't follow them. Hypocrites avoid criticism as much as possible, and they are very hungry for social approval, which is why they enjoy creating a false image of who they really are. Ignorance. Ignorance is when someone lacks knowledge or information about a certain topic, subject, or issue. Impatience. Impatience is the frustration and agitation someone feels when they have to wait for something or suffer a delay. People who are impatient desire instant gratification, seeking immediate rewards and pleasure while being unwilling to invest time and effort into anything meaningful. Indulgence. Indulgence is the act of giving into your desires and pleasures without restraint or moderation. People can indulge in almost anything, whether it's eating too much food, traveling, spending crazy money, gambling, drinking, or doing drugs. Ingratitude. Ingratitude is the lack of appreciation or thankfulness for someone's kindness, favors, and gifts. Ingratitude stems from entitlement and involves taking things for granted and failing to reciprocate someone's positivity. Insensitivity. Insensitivity is the lack of empathy someone has for another person. Insensitive people fail to consider the feelings, experiences, and perspectives of others. They don't respond appropriately to other people's boundaries, and they don't have an issue with hurting people either. Irresponsibility. Irresponsibility is the lack of accountability and responsiveness to accomplishing the tasks and duties that someone has to do every day. Irresponsible people neglect their jobs and duties either because they don't realize their unreliable nature or they just don't care about the consequences. Jealousy. Jealousy is an emotion someone feels when they are envious of another person and insecure about themselves. Jealous people are extremely anxious and are afraid of losing someone or something that they consider valuable. Lust. Lust, usually used in a sexual context, refers to an intense and overwhelming urge to fulfill your sexual desires or fantasies. Usually, it refers to having a strong physical attraction or longing for someone or something. Malice. Malice is the intent and desire to cause harm, injury, and distress to others. It involves a deliberate and often hostile, vindictive mindset aimed at destroying someone emotionally, physically, or socially. Manipulation. Manipulation is the act of influencing and controlling other people in a deceptive and cunning way so that you can achieve your own goals or desires. Manipulators use tactics and strategies to exploit people, putting the victim in an unknown situation where the manipulator has full control of their well-being. Narcissism. Narcissism is a personality trait or disorder that is characterized by the grandiose sense of self-importance someone has, as well as their need for excessive admiration from the world, and their lack of empathy for other people. Narcissists usually lack self-awareness and struggle with getting along with people. Negligence. Negligence is the lack of care someone has for the people or things around them. People who are negligent produce poor quality work because they don't care how the people using their products might be unsatisfied or hurt. Obsession. Obsession is the strong and persistent, often uncontrollable, preoccupation with a person, idea, or feeling. People who are obsessed with something spend all day thinking about it or how to become the thing that they are obsessed with. Overconfidence. Overconfidence is a psychological bias where you have an inflated sense of abilities, knowledge, or judgment. It leads you to overestimate your skills, and it makes you believe that negative outcomes in your life won't happen. Pessimism. Pessimism, also known as taking the black pill, is the tendency to focus on negativity as much as possible. Pessimists always expect the worst situation to happen, causing them to have low motivation and be lazy and depressed. Prejudice. Prejudice is the preconceived opinion someone has towards another person or group based on stereotypes and assumptions. Instead of actual knowledge or experience, prejudice can manifest in many forms, like racism, sexism, or religious intolerance. Pride. Pride is the feeling of satisfaction and self-respect you feel which comes from the achievements you've made or the things you own. It's associated with the sense of accomplishment, and it's generally a good thing. However, pride can quickly become negative when it becomes excessive or arrogant. Too much pride can cause you to feel superior, lose your sense of self-awareness, and make mistakes. Procrastination. Procrastination is when you delay or postpone something to the point that it causes negative consequences. Procrastinators put off doing boring or difficult work that is necessary. They prefer to spend time on pleasurable activities that give them immediate gratification. Recklessness. People who are reckless don't care about the possible consequences to their actions. They take risks without the caution for safety, and they usually don't even calculate if the risk is worth the reward. It's basically the negative version of bravery. Rudeness. Rudeness is any behavior that is disrespectful or offensive towards others. Whether it's in the form of using harsh language, ignoring social norms and etiquette, interrupting others, showing contempt and hostility, or displaying a lack of consideration, rudeness is usually not justified. Selfishness. Selfishness is when you only focus on yourself, your interests, your needs, and your desires at the expense of others, with no concern for their well-being. Selfish people refuse to share. They manipulate people for their personal gain and take advantage of other people's kindness. Sloth. Sloth is an intense state of laziness that is usually coupled with a feeling of apathy and hopelessness. People who are lazy struggle to find a reason to care about improving their lives, and they don't like making short-term sacrifices to improve their future. Spite. Spite is the desire to harm or annoy someone out of resentment or anger towards them. People who are spiteful think that the person they are directing their anger towards deserves some sort of punishment for what they have done. Spiteful actions include spreading rumors about someone, threatening them, or even sabotaging their lives or business. Stubbornness. Stubbornness is the refusal to change your opinion or set of beliefs, even when you are shown logical arguments and evidence against your ideas. Stubborn people are determined to follow their own path and prove that it is the best option no matter what. Superficiality. Superficiality is the focus on surface-level appearances rather than deep and more meaningful qualities. It means when you value and prioritize things like physical appearance, material possession, or social status above inner qualities, like whether someone's personality, values, or character is good. Unfaithfulness. Unfaithfulness is when you break a commitment or promise to someone, especially in the context of a relationship. It's also known as infidelity, and it's the extreme act of betrayal that happens when someone cheats on their significant other, or does some other action that destroys the trust and the loyalty expected within that relationship. Unfaithfulness can result from dissatisfaction in the relationship, lack of communication, temptation, or other personal issues. Vanity. Vanity is the excessive pride or admiration you may have for your own appearance, abilities, achievements, and qualities. Vain people desire attention and validation from everyone around them, based on meaningless or superficial attributes. Vain people lack authenticity because they sacrifice their own identity to be a cardboard cutout of a likable person. Vindictiveness. Vindictiveness is when you hurt someone that you think has hurt you the same way. Vindictiveness is similar to spite. However, while spite refers to the negative feelings that someone has about someone else, vindictiveness refers to the actions caused by those feelings. Waste. The vice of waste refers to many different things. It can mean the unnecessary wasting of food, wasting people's time, or wasting your own personal talents. Wrath. Wrath, otherwise known as anger or rage, is the extreme feeling of hostility towards someone. It's the desire for harm and punishment towards your perceived enemies. Xenophobia. Xenophobia is the fear or dislike of people from other countries or cultures because they are seen as different. Xenophobia can be based on various factors such as nationality, ethnicity, religion, or language.